What's up guys, and welcome to a pretty urgent video here. A week ago I made a video covering Manta Network, and now they announced their launch date of the 18th for their actual Manta token. I'm going to go over all of their different release details, their tokenomics, some of their background, cover their different NFTs, and pretty much get you guys up to date on what you need to know. Now before getting into this, remember to always do your own research guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get into it. So first things first guys, what exactly is Manta Network? And because I already covered this in a previous video, I'm not going to go too in depth here, but for those that don't know, Manta Pacific is the first EVM equivalent ZK application platform that is scalable and secure through Celestia DA and Polygon ZK EVM. And what's really interesting, guys, is I actually covered Celestia recently, and Manta is going to be the first major Ethereum L2 that is launching using Celestia's DA, data availability. And what's really cool about it is they've already saved over $750,000 using the Celestia DA compared to getting all of that data directly from the Ethereum chain. So just another reason I'm bullish on Celestia, but that was a whole other video that you guys can watch. Now, what's really interesting about the Manta Network, guys, is that it is a modular ecosystem that has two different networks. So as you can see here, they're using the modular ecosystem in order to build scalable and next generation apps. And the Manta Pacific side of things is the modular L2 ecosystem on Ethereum for all of these next generation dApps. And it provides a scalable and inexpensive gas fee environment for applications to grow beyond the limits of traditional EVM environments. And for those that don't know, a lot of times these L2s are spending millions of dollars a month just getting all this data from the Ethereum chain. And essentially what Manta Network is doing is they're using Celestia in order to cut down on a lot of those different fees. So it's actually the cheapest and most affordable and most scalable L2 according to Manta Network. They also have the Manta Atlantic side, which is the fastest ZK L1 chain on Polkadot. And this brings programmable ZK powered confidential on-chain identities and credentials to Web3 through ZK SBTs. Now that is a whole mouthful, and I highly recommend you guys reading this article from CoinMarketCap if you want to learn a little bit more about ZK. But the big thing is, guys, is that it helps reduce data leakage. It's a lot more scalable. It's a lot more cost efficient, and there is more control. Now there are some limitations as well. So once again, I'll put this link in the description if you wanted to read up on it. Outside of the tech, the Manta Network has been getting so much hype as of recently. A lot of people were farming their recent Paradigm NFT airdrop, and they have had over $850 million in TVL with over 145,000 participants in this first phase of theirs. And if you go to DeFi Llama, you'll actually be able to see that they are top 10 right now out of all the different TVL and all of these different chains. And right now it's saying on DeFi Llama that's about 420 million. So I don't know if the Manta side is right or if the DeFi Llama side is right, but regardless, there is a ton of TVL and a ton of participants currently paying attention to this chain. Another interesting thing to bring up as well is there's already a lot of different projects that are building on this chain, and a lot of them recently announced that they are going to be doing airdrops to Manta holders. I think we already have 3 or 4 announced that they're going to be doing some airdrops, so you're already able to lock in some of these different airdrops simply from staking your Manta. On top of having a lot of TVL, like a lot of different very VC-backed chains, we are getting listings on a bunch of different major exchanges, including Binance. And if you have a lot of money and you want to farm this current pool, you can start earning those Manta tokens as well. Now that the basics are out of the way, let's go into a little bit more of their tokenomics and the utility they have planned for the token. Now, as far as an overview, guys, they have 1 billion tokens that they are creating as their total supply, but that is not their max supply because every year they're going to have a 2% inflation, and this is important to help pay all of the different validators, or what they call collalators, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. Now, the big thing with the token is that it is going to be a governance token, but as I said earlier, we're already seeing different airdrops that are going to be going to this Manta network. You're also going to be able to stake your Manta to contribute to the overall security, as well as earn rewards for that, which you're able to see over here. And then on the Atlantic side, this Manta is actually going to be used for a lot lot of these different fees. So not the Pacific side that is the Ethereum layer 2, but this Atlantic side, which is going to be on Polkadot and have all of these ZK dApps built on it. As far as some other last things that they put in their overview, you're also going to have this native liquidity as well as collateral for the Manta token throughout their ecosystem. Now, the big thing that Manta is hoping to achieve is they hope their infrastructure through the cheaper cost with Celestia as well as their ZK dApps is going to help encourage a lot of different applications to build on their network. And their whole goal is to have this thriving ecosystem where they're benefiting a lot of different projects from building on their L2, and then those projects then end up building Manta, and then that ends up benefiting everyone that's invested in Manta as a result. And they're saying that they're able to get this additional value because of the productive redeployment of sequencer revenue, as well as the gas savings from that modular DA from Celestia. And then they're saying this money and this savings is going to help them fund different projects that want to build on their chain and really incentivize a symbiotic relationship between all of these different projects looking for a home. There's also going to be a lot of different community incentives to actually use these different applications. And we've already seen that they're giving Manta tokens for people that are using the different dApps that already decided to build on Manta, including projects like Lairbank and Shoebill. If they're able to successfully do all this and get a lot of projects to want to build on their chain and build on their network, now all of a sudden the demand for Manta block space is going to be able to generate additional revenue, and this is going to help the overall ecosystem continue to flow. Now, as far as the utility of this actual token, when it comes to the Atlantic side, it's going to be used for different transactions. You're going to be able to put these fees into different projects, encouraging more projects to grow. Once again, there's going to be an allocation towards their treasury, as well as a percentage going to the different collalators, which are kind of like validators, which I believe you can stake to and earn a yield. You're also going to be able to use this as a medium of exchange on this network. As a few last points on utility, this Manta token is going to be the main governance token as well, and this is going to be important for deciding the next steps for the chain. Now let's get into the tokenomics side of things. There are going to be 1 billion total tokens in the Manta network, and like a lot of different VC chains out there, we have over 30% going to different investors. So we have public investors, private investors, strategic investors, institutional investors. We can just pull this into VCs. It's always funny to me when they try to make this token allocation look better than it is, but in reality, we know it's a bunch of VCs, guys. We then have a good portion going to airdrops. We actually have two different airdrops. They're into the blue airdrop, as well as their new paradigm airdrop, which is that NFT airdrop that I covered. You also have 3% going to this Binance launch pool. You have a team allocation, as well as an advisor allocation, as well as a treasury allocation. And then you have a whole entire ecosystem and community allocation as well. You can then see here, guys, the breakdown of all of the different tokens, as well as the releases. Right now, there's going to be a total of 1 billion tokens. Remember, there's going to be a 2% inflation rate, and about 251 million out of that 1 billion are going to be circulating day one. A lot of that is going to be coming from the different airdrops. You then have the public allocation as well as the Binance pool, and you also have about 25% of the advisors tokens. Outside of that, all of the VCs as well as the team have a minimum of a 12-month cliff and then a vest period. So very similar to Celestia, we don't have to worry about VCs dumping on our heads right away. We have a good year before they start dumping their tokens. I also wanted to quickly show this token release schedule just for the different visual individuals out there. And you can see that we're starting off around 25%. And then in this first year, we're going to get just below 40% for the overall tokens. So we're looking at a good 50% increase in the overall amount of tokens that are going to be coming out in this next year. In this tokenomics article, which I'll also link in the description of my video, guys, you're going to be able to see a little bit of a deeper breakdown of where these tokens are going. But the big thing that you guys have to know, because it's going to be a lot of the massive supply in the beginning, is the two different airdrops, which I'm about to cover shortly. But I just wanted to quickly show all of this different breakdown for people that might want to pause this video and look at where these different tokens are going in their different cliffs. Now, as I just said, guys, there were actually two airdrops that were happening for this project. Now, the first airdrop is going to be the Into the Blue airdrop, where they actually allocated 50 million tokens. Now, there's a whole breakdown of how you actually qualified for this airdrop, and you can go on their main Manta Pacific site, guys, and actually connect your wallet and see if you qualified for any of those airdrops. But outside of that, they actually allocated about 20 million of those tokens to people that were collecting their NFTs in their first round. And once again, they had about 6 different NFTs that you could combine into a Mystic Manta NFT that would then give you additional tokens. You also had the new paradigm one, which I covered in my last video, where once again, you had these 6 different NFTs. You were able to get pieces to these boxes, open these boxes, get these different NFTs. And if you had all 6, you can combine them in order to get a larger percentage. Now, we don't know how much these different rarities of the NFTs are actually going to get of the tokens, guys. A lot of people are speculating based on the rarity of each of these NFTs that it's going to get X amount of tokens. But in reality, guys, I don't really want to run those numbers for you because it's a lot of speculation right now, and we don't truly know how much allocation is going to go to each of these NFTs. One thing that is interesting, though, is that we're going to be able to claim these different tokens, these Manta tokens, on the 18th at the same time they launch. So even though our Ethereum in this situation is actually locked for 69 days, we are getting those tokens right away. So we can either sell them or hold them, take profits, whatever you want to do, but we're going to be able to claim them in just a couple of days. Another interesting thing that I want to bring up in this video just about Manta Pacific and Manta Atlantic in general is that there's actually a lot of different yield revenue that you can get on this whole entire L2 as well. So if you're someone that isn't looking to necessarily buy a bunch of Manta right now or something like that, pay attention to this ecosystem because you're able to get all of the Ethereum staking rewards. It's a lot cheaper than Ethereum. You're able to mess around with some different protocols and dApps on this chain, potentially get airdrops from them, as well as additional community incentive airdrops from the actual Manta token. And they even have ways to use the engine layer to even get additional restaking on your Ethereum. So pretty interesting, a lot of different ways to make revenue on this chain. And even if you didn't get into this at all, there's going to be some opportunities over the course of the next couple months and probably the next bull run if Manta can keep the attention. One thing that I did want to bring up here when it comes to the NFT side of things is that you can actually buy and sell these different NFTs right now when it comes to this Element marketplace. And this is the mystical Manta I was talking about. There's about 6,300 right now, and then they have all of their pieces that you can combine in order to make this NFT. And then they also have this second version, which is this modular L2. And once again, this is when you combine all of these new paradigm NFTs. Now, this modular 2 is tapping into an additional 2% of the overall supply. There's 50 million tokens allocated, about 5% for this paradigm drop, and another 1.5% supposedly in the future for different community incentives. But we're going to be able to tap into an additional 2% with this modular L2 versus just the 30 million or 3% that's with all of the other NFTs. Now, I do want to say in this video, guys, that it was very misleading, in my opinion, how they actually set up these box pieces and what they made us think when it came to depositing this Ethereum. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that these different rewards and these different box pieces were going to last the whole entire duration of the 69 days. But I found out today, and one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, that that wasn't actually the case, that they actually decided a couple days ago, or they announced a couple days ago, that these rewards were going to end the moment that this claim was going to happen. So it's really weird to me how they had this deposit period where anyone could deposit, and they kept telling people to deposit and deposit and deposit. And then next thing you know, 1 day later or 2 days later, 3 days later, they cut off all the deposits and you're not able to get any more box pieces. So honestly, I think they could have done a much better job at really releasing that information. And I've spent hours researching this project and that was not clear to me. So I'm sorry if you did end up staking your different Ethereum to get these different box pieces, especially if you staked in January. It was a little misleading for me, and that information, like I said, once again, guys, was not super clear. That being said, I hope that you guys were able to get some box pieces because it still ended up being pretty profitable depending on the different pieces that you were able to get and the different NFTs that you got from those boxes. Now, as a final note, when it comes to those NFTs, I wanted to do a little bit of a breakdown, at least with the 2 major mystic NFTs that you can put together. Now, once again, this is a little bit speculative because we don't know the true numbers here, but this is just a general breakdown of what I've been able to find out with this. Now, a lot of people think that this Manta token is going to go anywhere from 2 to 4 billion FDV. I think this is very possible as well because a 2 billion FDV would be a 500 million circulating, and that would make this the 100th largest token on CoinMarketCap. And if it actually hit the higher end of 4 billion FDV, this would be around the 69th to 70th largest token on CoinMarketCap. So I think that's possible, at least in the beginning, with all the hype and all the momentum and all the airdrops that are going to be coming with this token. Another thing that I want to say before breaking down these numbers is that whenever these tokens launch on a centralized exchange, we don't currently know the listing price. Now, it's probably going to be a very lucrative listing price, and it'll probably be worth you trying to snipe. But there's so many different bots on these different centralized exchanges that oftentimes you end up buying the top. So what I would recommend as I dive into this is that setting some sort of limit order or max amount that you're willing to pay based on the FDV that you think this token is going to. So if you think it's going to go to around 2 billion FDV, maybe you set your max price to about $2 per token, and hopefully you're able to get into it. Now, a lot of times we're not able to get into it, guys, just because of all these different institutional bots that are going for these different drops. What's interesting in this situation, though, is we can actually buy some of these different NFTs, and it's almost like we're already buying the token at a certain FDV or at a certain price. Now, when you break down this Mystical Manta NFT, for example, this is about $2,700. Now, this is the Into the Blue airdrop, and we know this has 50 million tokens, but only 20 million of those tokens are actually allocated to the NFTs. So the 6 NFTs as well as the Special Manta NFT. Now, they say that this Special Manta NFT has the highest allocation, but we don't actually know the percentage for this. What we do know is this second airdrop with Paradigm gave about 40%, which would be 8 billion tokens, to the Special NFT. We know that because 2% out of the total 5% is going to the Special NFT, that L2 Modular that you can get when you combine everything. So it's one of those situations where if they do the same ratio, we can expect about 8 billion tokens or 8 million tokens. If we take 8 million divided by the 6,300 NFTs, we get about 1,270 Manta, which means that this token price needs to be about $2.11 per Manta token for you to break even, which is a little bit over a 2 billion FDV. So if you're someone that thinks that this is going to go to like a 3 or 4 billion FDV, you can actually technically buy the token right now in a way and get this claim in a couple days. Now, if you're someone that thinks a little over 2 billion FDV is too high for you to buy in, then I would definitely pass on this and at least put a limit order in. And maybe you were able to get some of this farming over the past month, or maybe you can wait for the price to drop if this is a project that you want to get into. Now, I also put examples if it was a 5 million total supply rather than 8, and I also put a 10 million. And then I also did the math for 2, 3, and 4 billion FDV. So if it was only 5 million tokens, guys, you'd be looking at $1,600, $2,400, and $3,200. If it was 10 million tokens, you'd be looking at $3,200, $4,800, and $6,400. So once again, this is very speculative because we don't know where the FDV is going to go. And on top of that, guys, we don't really know how much tokens they're going to get. I also did a breakdown of the Modular L2, which is going for about $1,000 to $1,050 at the time of this recording. We know there's a minimum of 20 million tokens that are allocated just for this NFT group, which is about 45.7 thousand NFTs. We don't know how much of the 3% that is available for the other 6 NFTs is actually going to go towards this bonus NFT. But if we broke this down for the 2, 3, and 4 billion, we're looking at 875, 1,300, and 1,750. So this is roughly 437 Manta tokens at the time of this recording, and this would be about $2.40 per Manta for a break even, which is a 2.4 billion FDV or about a 600 million circulating market cap. So yeah, pretty interesting. It looks like the other one is probably a better deal, but we were speculating of that 8 million tokens going to them, whereas with this one, we actually know where this is going. Now, do I think getting in at this price is a good deal? It's really hard to say right now, guys, and it's a lot more risky and it's a lot more speculative without knowing all the numbers. Now, my personal strategy for all of this, guys, is to set a limit order in on a centralized exchange. I think getting in under $2 $200, not financial advice, is probably a pretty safe play overall, especially with all the TVL engagement, centralized exchanges, and the way they set up their tokenomics. And there is a use case of being able to get way cheaper fees on an Ethereum L2 using the Celestia data availability. And this is the first L2 that is doing this. Now, in the long term, I don't know how well this is going to perform because there's still some speculation about modular blockchains in general. And there's also a lot of competition that's coming out as well. So we have to see how well they perform. That also being said, we know that Binance as well as Polychain decided to invest in Manta and back it. So we know there's a little bit more legitimacy with this project and with this product overall as well. But outside of putting a low limit order on the centralized exchange, I've been farming this for a while now, and I'm simply going to hold those different NFTs and claim those tokens. I don't think necessarily going out and buying those NFTs is a great idea right now, unless you really wanted to take a little bit of a speculative gamble and you were okay with already buying a 2 to 2.5 billion FDV, which, like I said, is probably where it's going to go according to a lot of people out there and probably my own analysis as well. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and make sure you have notifications on as well, because a lot of this different information I cover is going to be pretty urgent, like this release coming up, and I would hate for you guys to miss it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the video, and I'll catch y'all later.